welcome once again all the learner and the participant here in the week 8. So in this week 8 we have already started discussing on social action. So this is the last session of the week 8. So where we are going to discuss about the models of social action. We have already discussed the models of social action as well as the Gandhian approach to the social action models of social action. So from the Indian perspective or Indian context, these are the five very important models which we have to understand from the Indian perspective. So this is like institutional state, institutional social, social institutional, populist movemental, Gandhian model, and within the Gandhian it is further been divided into three sub models. These are the militant non-violent tradition, gentle non-violent tradition, and then citizenship model of constructive work. So these are the altogether five models where the Gandhian model is further bifurcated into and been divided into three sub-models. So let's discuss one by one. The very first is about the institutional model of social action. This institutional model of social action, actually it's about the state-driven action, or it is also considered as an indirect approach. It follows the indirect approach. This institutional or state model of social action refers to social action initiated by the state or government, typically designed to actually address societal issues and improve the well-being of the people, where the people's participation is least, where it's all about the welfare aspect of the institutions or the governmental agencies. So unlike the grassroots or the community driven models, this approach is top down approach. It actually limits the bottom up approach aspect. So it's actually it's mainly about the top down approach and focuses on implementing changes from within the institutional and bureaucratic structure of the state. So this is what through the state, through some agencies from the outside, without involving much to the community members, right? So it's mainly concerned about the what top to down approach, right? And it's also considered as an indirect approach because here the people's participation is least, and it's mainly about the parliamentary and bureaucratic, or you could say the parliamentary or representational process. Actually it is sometimes it's about the elitist perspective, because here the government or the bureaucrats actually involved into, and it's also more a legal framework. It's whatever the activities has been done under the institutional state model of social action is around the legal framework, because the bureaucrats and the state has been involved into this. So a definite characteristic of the state's approach is that social action is generally organized or sponsored within the framework of the law. The state acts within the constitutional, legal and regulatory boundaries to formulate policies and proper law. So here infrastructure and public welfare programs could be involved into this. Public health and social security programs could be involved into this. Impact of institutional social action is wider, in terms of, because it is mainly the bureaucrats has been involved into this, and then state has been involved. So it's a scope area is so larger. So because it takes all the public health aspect, and then infrastructure development, and then overall public welfare programs has been included here, and this is actually enforced or legally protected, and then our legal protection and enforcement has been there. Limitation is definitely it's actually limits the bottom up approach. It limits the people's participation, and sometimes because the lack of people's participation in formulation of these kind of the programs may lack the people's touch, may lack the actual reality of the communities. But even though it has its own strength and it has its own role in the development and the welfare of the society. Next is about the institutional social model of social action. Again, it's about institution, but it's about the social model. Earlier was the institution state, where the bureaucrats and the state has been participated and initiated the programs. Here institutional social model, maybe some local agencies or some organizations has been involved into this, and they actually coming forward and initiate the and support the programs for the welfare of the community. So here the social action in this model is initiated either by any non-governmental institution or in collaboration with any governmental authority. Maybe some civil society of the community have been organized some kind of the program, or may not take the collaboration the government agencies. So this institutional social model of social action emphasizes a dynamic and collaborative approach of social welfare, where non-governmental institutions play a central role in this. So here this NGOs and any kind of the non-governmental it plays very important role because it's, as the word institutional social here signifies, institutional, but it's about not mainly about the government, but it's about the socially approved organizations, or the organization available in that community only, or CBOs, or any civil society of that area. And so, but with the active involvement and support of the people they serve. So sometime, and once it's became it's required, so they also take the people's participation into this. So this model underline the importance of combining the institutional action with community participation. So two things together, community participation, and one more thing, even if it is required, they also take help of the any governmental agencies, right? So if it is any kind of the program which is larger in nature, they can also take help of this. So institutional social institutions of that area, or any international agency even, or the local agencies, or any civil society, they have to take in some kind of the activities, and along with the some people's participation. That is what this approach is all about. It's mainly a people centered, welfare step objective is there, because this is people centered, but welfare for the general masses. Fundamental goal of this welfare is welfare oriented, aiming to provide relief to those in need, and who are in actually sometimes the underserved communities. So it's also goes along with the legal framework, because here it's also about the institutional has been involved into this. So they didn't usually don't want to go against of any kind of the legal aspect. So it's also comes under the legal framework. Examples could be like any sanitation drives, or any environmental drives, or any health drives by any organization of that area, and that involved their local communities by making them realize the importance of that particular programs, that program, and that particular issues and concerns. So this is what institutional social model of social action. Moving ahead, the next one is about the social institutional model of social action. Here, the emphasis is on the people, or from the people and to the people. So community organization here, a group of citizens in neighborhood organizing to improve the local conditions, maybe of better sanitation, or safer safety, or lightening of the streets. It could be anything, right? And later receiving support from local authorities or NGOs, or sometimes in the government also. So it's mainly a grassroots movement. Here the people of that community, they got realized of some kind of the requirements, and when they started any kind of the movement, so the local they take the help of the maybe the local NGOs or local organization along present over there. So it started from the people, right? So it's a grassroots movement. It is considered to be very grassroots movement. Movements like the civil rights or environmental justice movement, or where marginalized groups or citizens organize and demand changes, later attracting some formal institutions to support, they later come on. Radical activism is the center of this approach or this model, right? So this refers to a type of social action that is primarily initiated by the individuals or groups for show within society, such as citizens, self-help groups, marginalized communities. It could be anyone from the community itself, or sometimes even elites. They have got realized that some kind of the requirements and some kind of the change is required. So once they address the social issues, or further their own interest, sometimes it could be like of their own interest. They believe that maybe political leader of that area, so they do believe that if this could be happen, and if I initiated this program, the people will be connected with me, and it is going to be it is a positive outcome will be politically positive outcome would be the final result for that leader. So it could be of their own interest, and it could be for the whole community interest. But over time, as the action progress, it may seek to receive support from formal institution. It happened any programs when started and initiated by the community, and it get popularized. Many organizations, they come forward and they do participate. So we have witnessed even in the during the lot of the agitations, a lot of the issues concerned to the community and then masses, when they come forward and they agitated for that, maybe in the CANRC or any other during the Anna Hazare movement. So it started by the by the local people, or maybe by some elites, and later on the other agencies working on the same area, they come forward and they do participate into that. So this is what the social institution model of social action, where society itself first started their own activism, and usually it has been around the radical activism. Next is the populist movement model of social action. populist this it rejects the self-reliance and collective efforts. It's totally actually for the people, by the people, and to the people. It actually rejects any kind of the support system. So this populist movement of social action emphasizes a strong foundation in popular social base and power, where social action is led entirely by the people without reliance on external institution, unlike the social institutional model of social action where the people has started, but it takes later on it's been collaborated with some kind of the agencies or the civil societies, or maybe it could be any governmental agencies. So but in the populist movement it is by the people only, right? Where and they usually this particularly this model is least concerned about the any kind of the dependency on any civil society or any organization. So where social action is led entirely by the people without reliance on external institution or authorities. The model focus on self-reliance, collective effort, and active participation of the community members. All right. So with the central idea of the people can organize, decide and work together to address their issues, strengthen their communities, and gain power. So this model is having strong belief system and assumption in the capacities and capabilities and strength of the community member. So this action is for the people, by the people, and of the people. So this is what the fundamental aspect of this particular model of a populist model, or it is also a movemental model. So any model which is became popular, it's take a kind of the is converted into some kind of the movements and then revolutions, right? So the populist model is deeply tied to the movements that aim to bring about changes which can often a radical or revolutionary in character. These movements may start informally but grow to the challenge social norms or government policies sometime. Self-determination is also one aspect, because many times as it is least connected with any agency or any organization which actually many a time is helpful in managing the things and motivating the things. But here in the populist movement, till the members do believe into the cause, they will be actually participating into that. But once they are became tired, once they not connected with that cause, so they actually discontinue with the movement. So this kind of the populist movement or movemental model once started with lot of motivation, but if it loses its interest and it as it goes so lengthy and it takes a lot of the time, so sometimes in between it loses its connection, it loses its strength. So it's a self-terminating as well, because it's not been managed by any external agencies. Next is the Gandhian model of social action. So this Gandhian model of social action particularly so much important from the Indian perspective. Here it represents a distinct and holistic approach to social change that actually is deeply rooted in the spirituality, as what the Gandhiji has given, ethical principles, and then moral rearrangement and rearmament of individuals and then communities. Here is the limitation of wants has been there. It's not about the individual's wants and greediness. It's about the overall wellness, overall development of the community. So this is what the limitation of wants is one ethical approach of this Gandhian model of social action. Unlike more conventional models, they that may focus primarily on political or economic action, the Gandhian approach is integrate spiritual values with social action. So here, morality and spirituality is so important. This model actually places significant emphasis on the purity of means and ends, so concerned about the all non-violence, all purity, all ethical aspect, moral aspect in the means as well as at the end. So objective should be moral based or morality based, and then the means, the process involved into it should be having all the kind of the morality with them, all the ethical principle must be followed. So this is what non-violence, that is ahimsa, that is a fundamental belief system of the Mahatma Gandhi and his approach. And so austerity, the constructive work as the key components of social change. Here, people's power is the main in all these three models of the Gandhian model. So I've already told you that Gandhian model of social action is further been divided into three sub-models, where the humans as or people's power is considered to be the center of all three model of Gandhian model, like militant non-violent tradition, either it is gentle non-violent tradition or citizenship model of constructive work. So in all the three, people's power is as the center of this, and believing in all the values of the Gandhian ideology, like the ahimsa, welfare for all and all. So just take one by one this Gandhian model of social action. The very first one is the militant non-violent tradition. So here, the militant non-violent is as a very important subtype of Gandhian model of social action, which retains the core principle of non-violence as all the three models carries this, that is ahimsa, but combines it with a more active, politically oriented and revolutionary approach. So going with the non-ahimsa, but it's not like that it's altogether a passive approach. It's an active approach. It's an active approach, politically oriented and revolutionary approach has been there. So bringing change into the major system of the community, or bringing change in the structure of the community. So this approach is characterized by forceful intervention with the intention and the intention to bring about radical changes in the social system without restoring to physical violence. I mean, it's not at all, because it goes with the ahimsa, but putting pressure through some other non-violent mode, like mass mobilization, protest, direct action, dharnas, so sit-ins. So by all these non-violent mode, one can ask for their, or the movement can ask for their own rights. So that is what the militant non-violent, although it's a non-violent, but as it is militant, so it's exerts some kind of the, and it asks for some kind of the exertion of some forces, to putting some forces to ask their own rights. Examples are like the Chipko movement, that is which emerged in the Himalayan region by some tribal women. You know, the movement was non-violent altogether, but it was also forceful in resistance to the commercial exploitation of the natural resources, where the activists, primarily the rural women, embraced trees and to physically prevent loggers from cutting them down. There are other anti-environmental exploitations movements was there. There are other many such movements is within, not only the militants, or sorry, environmental, but apart from that, many social movements has been taken through this the militant non-violent models. Then gentle non-violent tradition, it is little lesser violence has been asked for there. Here, this gentle non-violent tradition within the Gandhian model of social action is characterized by peaceful, constructive and community focused approach to social transformation, unlike the militant non-violent tradition, which is more assertive and oriented towards mass mobilization and direct action. Here in the gentle non-violent tradition, emphasis is gradual change, slowly and gradually the things could be happened. Voluntary action would be there, and ask for the voluntary action, and moral persuasions means to believe, creating the kind of the belief system based on the moral things, even to the oppressors, to the oppressed, to the everyone involved into that. So once they got really realize the who are actually responsible for any kind of the dysfunctioning of the society, they could also be come forward once they got realized, and then to participate, and they do give their the due of the underprivileged communities. So for example, Bhudan has been there once the elite group, once they got realized that if they have to gifted some of their lands to the landless, to the poorers, so it is going to be benefit for them and for the whole society in large. So because being the member of that society, it is their responsibility to participate. So this subtype blends elements of social action, particularly the populist movement or movemental model, where it talks about the things which, or the issue or the concern which became so popular among the masses, they themselves asked for that. And with grassroots institutional work, whether maybe related to the constructive work model, maybe the institutions which has been available there, so they could also do participate into that, focusing on rebuilding the communities through some non-coercive means and collective goodwills to create a just, equitable society based on Gandhian values, that is truth, non-violence, and then self-reliance of the community itself. So the key features of this tradition are community building, voluntary land redistribution, that is the Bhudan, and then creation of self-reliant non-violent communities like the Gramdan. So Satyagraha is the tradition in, gentler in tone, aiming not just to resist the injustice but also to construct and reconstruct and revitalize the community. So these are some example of the gentle non-violent tradition at the grassroots level. So the goal is not only to change the external system but to also foster inner formal or moral transformation in the individuals and build a spirit of cooperation within the community. So once this the spirit of the cooperation will develop between the haves and haves not, they definitely do come forward, and then kind of the dysfunctional happened or is been there in the community because of the inequalities could be resolved. So example I have already given as like the Bhudan, that is the land donation, one of the most important elements of the gentle non-violent tradition in the this is the Bhudan movement, where led by the Vinoba Bhave in the 1950s and 1960s. Vinoba Bhave, actually a close disciple of or the believer of the Gandhian ideology, actually encouraged wealthy landowners to donate lands to landless peasants. Even the Gram Dan to the village donation, they can also donate the whole and soul villages, because at that time Jagirdar and Zamindar holds villages to village, I mean number of villages in their own. So this gradual transformation through moral and social rebuilding is actually built a lot of or brought a lot of the changes into the society, into particularly in the rural community. So even today, if we actually make this possible to make the corporates or the big businessmen, to make them realize, or even the any influencer in the community to make realize that they can also do participate in building the overall building the in the constructive aspect of the society. So the things has to be resolved, the inequality would be minimized. So this is more the gentle non-violent tradition, where the elites try to mobilize those the house community or the elites community to participate. And also with the populist movement, when the communities also to participated here, once they got realized and attached and to that cause. Next is about the citizen model of constructive work. Here focus is on education and civic responsibility. This citizenship model of constructive work is so again it's a, so I mean it's a gradual it's a gradual change. It's actually emphasizes the grassroots approach to social change with a strong focus on education and civic responsibility, and the role of citizenship in bringing about a gradual transformation in society. Here in the gentle non-violent tradition, where the education and morality has been given to the elites people, and also including the the masses of the community together. So this was there in the citizenship model of the constructive work, where the masses need to be educated, they need to be become more responsible towards their own society through a constructive knowledge building. So this model rejects the confrontational strategies like protests, boycotts, or direct conflicts with authority. It promotes non-violent constructive path for social change through education or civic engagement and the cultivation of the social consensus. Refer to the Lok Samiti in the Indian context, means everyone has to coming forward and they do participate into that. This model envisioned a revolution in thought and methods. Means Vichar Kranti, means Kranti in Vichar, means Vichar Kranti and Padati Kranti. Vichar Kranti means the kind of the revolution should be come in the thought process, and Padati Kranti means the revolution should come in the process. So rather than political or violent revolution. So here it's emphasis on the Vichar Kranti and Padati Kranti through proper education and civic and inculcating the civic responsibility among the masses. So here moral education is again important, and encouraging citizens to act according to the ethical principles and become agents of the positive change in the community. Gradual and it's a non-confrontation social change model. This reject the conflict with the authorities, as I have already mentioned. Here, it's local social consensus has to be maximized. That is the Lok Samiti. Revolution in thought method, that is the Vichar Kranti, and then Padati Kranti is focusing on, and this is transformation in the values and the approaches. This particular model is mainly emphasizing into transforming in the behavior and then value system and then approaches. So present day social marketing and SBCC we do follow as an important tools and techniques to bring change in the behavior, though that we can also, in this citizenship model of constructive work, we can take help of those social marketing methods and tools, as well as the SBCC. There are a lot of the SBCC and BCC models we are also going to discuss in the coming sessions and coming days. Now coming to the steps involved in social action, I hope after understanding of all these models of Britos and then Indian perspective or Gandhian model, and Lok Samiti and all, so now you will be able to understand the steps that is involved into the social action. So in general, what are the different steps? Then we will go very specifically. So first very step is about the identifying the problem. So until in any kind of the injustice, if the people is don't believing into that, if there is no discontent, problem is there but they don't realize, so it is not going to be resolved. So very first thing is about the identifying the problem, then determining the positions to be taken. So means who are actually affected and how this problem could be resolved. So that is what the determining the positions to be taken. Then identifying the social action goals. After understanding the problems, then it is about that what kind of the goals has to be set up to resolve that problem, right? So how much the process has to be involved, what kind of the process could be involved, what could be the goal, and then further bifurcated objectives would be there. So and then expected outcome, these should be the specific and at least some should be tangible. That is the SMART goal we would have to follow. Then mobilize support. So definitely it's about the social action, so its action has to be taken by the society. So both non-formal and then formal methods, and locating the networks to influence the power depending upon the resources, depending upon the nature and then gravity of the problem and issue, and the degree of the concern. So accordingly you have to follow the different models and different approach and different tactics and strategies to be followed. Setting up the machinery, so that is what to carry out the struggle, canvas action, provide leadership. So overall setting up the machineries, who will perform the what kind of the task, who will be the leader, what are the responsibilities has to be distributed among different members. Laying down the strategies that you have already developed. A well drawn out plan indicates series of action and the networking among the leaders. That's why if the NGOs or any agency has been involved, it is a long lasting and goal attainment is more successful. Unlike in the populist model where it's a lot of enthusiasm there, a lot of participation is there, but as there is not so much management has been done, as there is no agency has been involved, so sometimes it has been fade off if once the community has lose its interest. That's why once the agency or any organization has been involved, they go with the very formal way. That is what the social work is talking about, the social action as a professional approach. So here, as a professional approach, laying down the strategy is so important, and laying down the communication channels. What kind of the communication channels the whole agency and then that movement has to be followed, or the kind of the decision making, or the kind of the media they have been followed, the kind of the communication pattern they've been followed with to interact with the agencies, to the masses, to the leaders, whoever involved into carrying out the action. So after all the planning, now that step is about the carrying out the action. Once the action has been done, or in between also, the review is important. That is what the evaluation and assessment has to be carried out throughout the programs, and particularly at the end. So after all the evaluation, or sustaining the pressure, this is very important. Many times, as I have told you and as I've mentioned, that if the masses has lose the interest around that issue, because if anything became so take some more time, or sometimes the community loses some kind of the interest, so the programs and the movements has been fade off in between. So that should not be done. Any program has to reach at the end. So for to that, sustaining the pressure, or sustaining the pressure maybe on the policymakers, to whom you ask for any right. So pressure has to be maintained and sustained. And then motivation also have to be retained and sustained within the masses, so that everyone would participate till the end of the program. Okay, just moving ahead. Scholars like Kurt Lewin and Solinsky have outlined various steps to effectively mobilize community and drive changes into the overall community. So this is like in any social action, these actually the scholars have various steps that we are going to discuss about effectively mobilize the communities and drive the changes. Here, like identifying the problem. So the very first step is about involving on recognizing the specific social issues or injustice that needs to address, and the required understanding of the root cause affected affected communities, and then relevant stakeholders who are been involved into, who are been infected affected by these all. So this all needs a kind of the scholarly investigation, or here the proper analysis has to be done. That is what the identifying the problem, that is already we discussed into this identifying the problem. So next is about community mobilization and awareness. So this community mobilization and awareness, once the problem has to be identified, organizers begin raising awareness within the affected community. So once the community became aware, they get mobilized into, and being given their participation into that movement. Leadership development, coalition building is again important, because any program, any movements could not be possible without the local leadership. So the leadership development and the coalition building has to be important step in the social action. Next is strategy and planning. So whatever the strategy, after identifying the problem, after identifying the stakeholders and the affected people, after after mobilizing the members, creating the leadership among them, developing certain goals, now the step is about to develop the strategy, and as per the strategy you have to develop the plan. So how to actually initiate and pursue that strategy to get the final objective of the social action. Then dramatization and mobilization could be the step to mobilize and to actually carry on the movements. So here the movement gains visibility and engages the public using methods like protest, rallies, media engagement, boycotts, other forms of dramatization, nukkad natak, in any street plays. So these phase aims to actually put pressure in those in power by drawing public attention and gathering widespread support from the community, from overall the community. Confrontation and negotiation. So at this stage, activists engage directly with the power holders and confronted with them and ask for their own rights, demanding concrete changes, and the kind of the changes they actually ask for, reforms or consent, or concessions. This can involve direct dialogue sometime. Also negotiation is could be possible, or more intense pressure tactics could also be used, depending upon the situation and response from the authorities. If the authorities is totally passive, they're not participating, you have to then create more dramatization and put a lot of other kind of the confrontation and negotiation. But if you see that the other party is somehow is ready, so need not to put in a lot of the pressure, and need not so much of the confrontation at that time. Just a mild pressure is enough for that time. Implementation of change and monitoring. So that is what if successful social action leads to change, such a policy reforms or social improvements could be possible. So implementation of change and monitoring is so important. Monitoring should be done at every stage and every step. Reflection and evaluation would be the last. So how much it was a successful, you have to reflect all the your activities involved into, and then how the leadership has been emerged, how that the committee has been getting rewarded and awarded and get benefits, how the inequality has been reduced. So all these have to be, at the very end you have to evaluate and reflect on. Now, as we have discussed the steps as well as the models, so this the ideologically this social action has been somewhere been backed up by some of the great philosopher, and backed up by some kind of the thought process. Maybe in Indian context we are so much adhere to the Gandhian ideology and Gandhian philosophy that we have already discussed, and also the kind of whenever we talk about the social action, so we cannot forget the thought process of the Alinsky, who talked and who actually propagated and who actually advocated for the grassroots level participation of the members. So he actually put some kind of he actually administered, he actually supported of some kind of the pressure building from the community side, as he was much believing in the bottom up approach. He actually advocated for the bottom up approach. Let's have a demarcation between these two ideologies. One is from the Saul Alinsky, another is from the Mahatma Gandhi. So, as per, if you're looking into the Alinsky ideology, so it's actually believing destroying the individual who holds the power. So much conflicting in nature. In contrast to that, Mahatma Gandhi's ideologist says that destroying the value system which keeps the power. So, don't kill the, you know, the actually who is actually creating any issues, rather kill the issue, right? Here, and next is about attacking the persons who heads the establishment. Here, not to crush the individual, purpose is to change the system. So protecting the body and psyche of the so-called enemy. So here, as per the Gandhian ideologies, more emphasis is given to bring that has, or bring that the who is creating the problem, bring that person into the loop of the whole development. So when they got realized, they will be actually bring the kind of the inequality which will be reduced, is of more sustainable nature. That's what we have seen in the Bhudan movement. Ends should justify the means. So Alinsky is believing into that mass mobilization, mass propaganda, putting pressure into that. So anyways, the kind of the change which has been required by the underserved has to take at any cost. So definitely it's having its own value, but here as per the Mahatma Gandhi ideology, which actually emphasize more on the means, the process should be non-violent. And it's not always that the ends justify the means. It could be the means justify the end. Maybe you don't get that larger goal, but you get the small objectives. That is what is going to be benefited in a long run for the community. As per the Saul Alinsky, inducing anger and hatred is sometimes required for the mobilization. Although these are not the straight statements coming out from these scholars, but this is a thought process, right? So here, in the Mahatma Gandhi, based on love and satyagraha, that we have all witnessed, that we got independence because of these ideologies, right? How this mindset could bring the change into the society. See, these are the beautiful examples. Defeating the enemy. Here is believing in the winning over the enemy. Means by behavioral change of the enemy. So in the enemy, they themselves would provide the kind of the space or the conflict, to the other parties, and helpful in the reducing the conflict. Secrecy is maintained in the program planning. Here, no secrecy is maintained. As per the Gandhiji, it has to be open to all. As per the Saul Alinsky, the purpose is to make the system more functional. Here it's believed that attempts to change the entire pattern of community organization, bring political decentralization, simple and more relevant technologies, desinstitutionalization and deprofessionalization of the overall the welfare system, so that it should be the by the people and for the people belief system. So here attempts to change the structure of the social policy. So here in the changing the whole overall structural policy, here is modification about the policies as per the believing by the Gandhian ideology. So this is all about the 8th week sessions. So this was the last session. So this is the reference you can take on. In concluding remarks, I would say that in this whole 8th unit or 8th week, we have discussed about the meaning and very objectives and very concept of the social action. We have also discussed the different principles of community social action. We have discussed the different strategies that need to be followed for bringing the social action to the society. We have discussed the different process. We have also discussed the different models as the Brito and the Indian context models and all. And we have also discussed the steps that need to be followed to bring the change in the society through some social action modes. And we have, at the last, we have also discussed about the Alinsky and Gandhian ideology of the social change. Thank you so much.